I had a succession of sort of obsessions I'll briefly share. The first being the first film I saw, which was Mary Poppins when I was 3. And I think it was partly that film, but it was partly the fact that it was the first film I ever saw. And that generated a uniquely, weirdly obsessive relationship to the film that, and I'm not alone in this, I'm sure many kids felt this way, and they latch on to movies. But it made me want to kind of respond in kind, creatively, and draw a million pictures about Mary Poppins and act out the scenes from Mary Poppins and dress my mom up as Mary Poppins. And sort of live this repetition compulsion around that experience in the big screen. And of course, you know, this is before we could rewatch movies on DVD a million times, and yet one remembered every frame. Following that, the big movie that really blew my mind was Zeffirelli's Romeo and Juliet. I was 7, but it was a movie that connected to youth culture of the time. It seemed very erotic and sophisticated and romantic, and the world of Shakespeare was a fascination. But I remember the teenage girls in '68 in the theater with their black bare feet, sobbing convulsively when Romeo kills himself. And you knew that movies had connected to culture and informed our experiences in the world in this very visible way. And then the last one I'll mention is The Miracle Worker, which I saw around the age of the characters in this film. And I think it remains a fascinating subject for kids. The life of Helen Keller, the incredible performances by Anne Bancroft and, of course, Patty Duke. But it's really a story about moving out of a pre-language moment, a kind of, you know, savage, instinctual moment, and understanding what language means and how it gives you access to expression and culture. And it's almost bittersweet what she loses and what she gains. Of course, we know she gained an entire, you know, humanitarian future as an incredible beacon for so many people. But I think that sign language fascinated me, and the ways that they communicated, and how she struggled through that time and found herself, was just mind-blowing.
I mostly loved monster movies when I was a kid. I was really into the Phantom of the Opera, the Lon Chaney silent movie. I grew up in New Jersey, and so there was the Creature double feature in the afternoon when I got back from school. The 4 o'clock monster movies, Frankenstein, Bride of Frankenstein, and King Kong. And I'm distantly related to David O. Selznick, who produced King Kong and Gone with the Wind and Rebecca, so there was always also that added thrill of seeing my last name at the beginning of all of these movies that I really loved, even though they were from the California movie-making side of the Selznicks, and I am from the New Jersey dry cleaning side of the Selznicks. A successful dry cleaner, though, I do have to say. But even though it seemed like another world, the name connected us, and that always felt very important to me, and made it feel like there was a part of me out there that was connected to the cinema. And then every year, looking forward to seeing The Wizard of Oz on TV when it was aired around the holidays, and that moment, which I think is maybe one of the greatest moments in cinema history, is when Dorothy opens the door from her black and white world in Kansas into Oz. And so I'm like, maybe that's what I don't think I ever made this connection exactly, but maybe that's what this entire movie is.
We talked about it.
Did we talk about it? Yeah, that's it. So The Wizard of Oz was a big influence as well.
When I was in the 5th grade, my family moved to Juneau, Alaska, and there was a movie theater in town that my sister and I went to every Saturday, no matter what. And because the population was so small in Juneau, they changed the movie every single week. So sometimes we'd go and we'd see the Aristocats. And then one week it would be like A Day in the Life of Alexander Solzhenitsyn. A Day in the Life of Ivan Denisovich by Solzhenitsyn. And then Papillon, and then Minnie and Moskowitz, which was a Cassavetes film. And they let us in every Saturday. And I didn't know what I was watching half the time. I really didn't, not until years later. And I think it was only when I became an actor and I realized, because I was only really interested in plays and stuff as I was growing up, and it wasn't until I would see movies in a revival house in Boston when I was in college that I kind of drew this correlation to these movies that I saw when I was in 5th grade. And it was just this sort of different, very, very human point of view. So if you're Ivan Denisovich and you are in prison and you reach down and you pull up a fisheye in your soup, like I remember that very distinctly, that communicates a different kind of experience to you right away. And you've done that visually with a fisheye in a spoon, or when you watch Cassavetes films, the way people relate. And it was something that kind of honed my interest in behavior, in performance. So I became interested less in a theatrical kind of performance and more of a cinematic one. And that was because of this guy who owned a theater in Juneau, Alaska.
Did you go to the Orson Welles Cinema in Boston?
No, I went to the Brattleboro.
The Brattle.
That one. That was the one we went to.
Yeah.
Yeah.